And if you want to support yourself as an author, I know you hate the word business, all right? I know you hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. But if you want people to buy your books, that's a business. And if you want to be successful, i.e. supporting yourself by people buying your books, you really ought to consider this step. Here's a step that will help you generate better ideas and help you with 100 things throughout the writing process that you definitely should not skip. I'm gonna be really honest. My perspective on a writer is that your job is not to be brilliant. It's not to write the great American novel. It's not to write the best prose anyone's ever seen or to have the best characters or the deepest themes and internal conflicts or any of that stuff. Right? Your job as a writer is to... I just reviewed 3 step-by-step self-publishing tutorials, and one of the things that I realized as a former business coach is it seemed like 2 of the 3 videos just skipped the first crucial step, and even the 3rd one didn't touch on it very heavily, so I wanted to do a quick how-to. So this is writing advice, the critical step that most authors skip, and if you want to support yourself as an author, I know you hate the word business, all right? I know you hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. But if you want people to buy your books, that's a business. And if you want to be successful, i.e. supporting yourself by people buying your books, you really ought to consider this step. So when you first sit down to write something, when you first get your idea, or even if you have no ideas but want to write something, here's a step that will help you generate better ideas and help you with 100 things throughout the writing process that you definitely should not skip. It's a little thing in business that we call market research. So actually finding out who buys the kind of stuff you want to write and what they want and what they don't want, and including that in what you write. So I know you hate business again, so let's call it audience research instead of market research, because then you don't have that nasty little dirty money word market in there. So audience research. I'm going to be really honest. My perspective on a writer is that your job is not to be brilliant. It's not to write the great American novel. It's not to write the best prose anyone's ever seen or to have the best characters or the deepest themes and internal conflicts or any of that stuff. All right, your job as a writer is to give the reader the experience that they want. That's why people read within certain genres. Even hoity-toity people who like fine literature, even those people are looking for an experience of feeling erudite and getting the references and being deep thinkers, right? They're getting something out of that. I admit I'm much more of a genre like pulp fantasy reader. I do like some of the better writers in that genre. I love, Le Guin, Wizard of Earthsea, Lathe of Heaven, The Dispossessed, etc. So, the good writing, the deep themes and questioning and all of that stuff is great. But the problem is you can have excellent prose, great pacing, deep themes, but if it's not the experience your audience is looking for, or you can't find the people who want that experience, they're not going to buy your book, right? You not only need to be able to write it into your book, you need to know how to promise that experience in the title, in the cover, in the blurb on the back. Pick the right testimonials that will grab people and promise them the experience they want, and then you've got to be able to deliver that in writing. This is not to say, before I go into my step-by-step how I think you should do it, a very simple thing you can do in an afternoon, but you should do it. Before I go into the step-to-step, I just want the disclaimer that I'm not saying you should only write genre tropes that, regurgitate genre tropes that people like. I'm saying you should take it as a constraint to include one thing that people really want in your novel, at least, that speaks to you, that resonates to you. Look at the Venn diagram of things you're interested in and things people want to read about and pick something in the middle. Also, a heads up, if this is the kind of content that you're interested, before I go on my step-by-step, please like and subscribe so you can get more of these. I'm also going to go on my own journey of trying to promote and write and publish a novella by the end of the year, so I can put all of these things into practice and take you behind the scenes. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to build an audience for that novella on top of building an audience for this channel, or whether those two things will dovetail. It'll be crazy. But like and subscribe. I will bring you along that journey. My whole mission is to help indie sci-fi and fantasy creators be able to support themselves with their creative work. And that starts, I think, by doing your research before you really dive into writing. If you're already writing, I mean, it's not too late. You can go back and stop. But man, it's going to be a real bummer if you finish writing and try and shoehorn it into some kind of genre that you hope people care about. Try and make it profitable afterwards if that's not what you've written the entire novel for. Whew, that'd be rough. So, no further ado, my step-by-step guide for audience research. So step one is define your niche audience. And I'm going to give you some quick and dirty guidelines for that. It's not a genre. It's not horror fans or fantasy fans. That's way too broad. Be niche. All right, better is a subgenre, cosmic horror, horror comedy, etc. But even then, I would get even more specific and pick out particular books or authors that inspire you. So I'm gonna go with an example. This might be the novella I end up writing this year. For some reason right now, I'm feeling, Cthulhu, cosmic horror. I think it would be kind of funny to write a cozy Cthulhu novel. I'm not sure I can deliver on the coziness knowing my writing style. And, to be honest, as a GM, game master or dungeon master for tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, like, I definitely have some dark humor in things, but like, I don't think dark humor is what cozy people are looking for. So if anything, it's probably going to be like horror comedy, and I'm making fun of cozy a little bit, enjoying it, also making fun of it. I'm not sure if cozy people are gonna like that. So my niche there, right? Obviously the subgenre could be cosmic horror or horror comedy, as I mentioned above. But getting even more specific, I think Lovecraft, even at this point, is too broad. I might look a little bit more into books or authors that are doing something Lovecraftian today. So, I might look at Mexican Gothic is a book I recently read, and all right, I need the author's name. Author, appear below as I do my research, and I'm drawing a blank. Should have put that in my notes. She's someone who takes older novels and does her take on them. They're not all Cthulhu, so maybe I'd look for an author that, like, a current or relatively recent author who's really done like a lot of Cthulhu books, but she does like other dark fantasy. So, and she has one book specifically, Mexican Gothic, that is, very Lovecraftian in its strange horror. What's it? Books, groups that are discussing those types of books would be a great place to go ahead and find my audience. And that's kind of leading into step two. Step two is find your peeps. So once you know where your niche is, go on the internet, take a look, and search. You can search on Facebook, you can search Reddit groups, you can search people talking about it on Twitter. A great place, and one of the reasons why I tell you to go to specific authors and books, is you can go to Amazon and read reviews, see what people like, what they wish had happened, which is great for like great ideas for twists, what they hated. Just remembering, one of the things that's interesting in a series that I enjoyed, it's hard to call a series. There's 2 books, and the third one hasn't come out for a decade or something. It may come out someday, but it's interesting. You talk to fans and you notice that like some people really love the romance relationship, which is not. It's not a romance, but that romantic relationship drives a lot of the main character's decisions. And so, but a lot of people absolutely hate that. And the hate might not be all bad, right? Like, maybe that's a good thing. Like, getting a character that really riles people up, like, that's good to learn about, like, why. What is it they really dislike about the main female lead? Because kind of in my opinion, they're both sort of broken people, and I understand why there would be an attraction, and also why their relationship is broken and frustrating for a lot of people. It's not necessarily a bad thing to write about a broken relationship, but again, like if I was going to write a romantic lead that I wanted people to like, and that was my genre, that was the Name of the Wind series, I would not write that character. I might have that character somewhere in, or I might have that character as a complicating factor or whatever. But like, if I wanted you to like the main character, or wanted that audience to like the main female, you know, for the love of all that's holy, I would not write that character. I would learn from that. It's just an example of like looking at reviews or talking to fans, etc. Sorry, I kind of jumped the gun into step 3. Step 3 was collect your do's and don'ts. Like, look for what people want. And not just like what they want. Like, I want a good romance. Like, I want to feel like, okay, I don't know why I'm going for romance. I want to feel loved and attractive. Like, is that how male romance readers sound? Anyway, I don't know why I went there, but not just what people want to feel, but like what evokes that, like, you know, okay, some of these might be tropes. You can play with the tropes. You don't have to just do the formula, which, you know, romance novels have a reputation of following. Just follow the formula. Do a twist, do something original, but like learn what makes your reader feel attractive and loved, or creeped out, or inspired, or heroic, or thoughtful, thought provoked. Anyway, like learn the things that get them there, and take ideas. Like, you don't have to do all of them. Don't do all of them mechanically and just produce something, you know, by the memes, kind of paint by numbers, but with memes or whatever, or tropes. But pick one that resonates with you. Find your individual purpose, your twist on it. You know, you have your characters that will have some unique outlook. Like, find something worth exploring, right? That moves other people. And then you can still write a very good novel without pandering, with characters that have their own viewpoints and motivations, that each, you know, see and uncover one aspect of this thing. It'll be satisfying. It can even be literary if you want, but like actually know what people want and how include that in your novel. And then it becomes a lot easier not only to write something that they want, but to write a title or a cover, or create a cover, or write a blurb on the back that is enticing to them, because you know what the draw for that book is. All right, you know, start with the draw, start with a hook, right? But a hook that you know people already want. Just giving you an example, this is not someone started with this in mind, but it was just one time I started geeking out, and I'll actually upload this video. I have some interviews to upload, but I was talking with an author who's releasing a book, I believe this month or soon, and one of the things that she talked about was that her main character has to eventually compete with the mentor. The mentor kind of becomes an antagonist, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's a cool character arc. You know, I think that crops up here and there, but for most, certainly fantasy books that I hear, like, that's usually not true. It's like people are either evil or they're the good Gandalf mentor figure. There's not so much of a learning from somebody, but then also moving beyond and, you know, beyond that, and then coming in conflict and having to compete with them. And so, like, just that, like, oh, I want to read about that. That was a good hook. That would be the kind of thing that if you saw someone's like, I love it when, or I wish, I never see this and I wish, that would be the great thing to include in your book. So collect your do's and don'ts, and fourth, pick something that resonates with you. I'm like constantly jumping ahead of myself in this video. Collect something that resonates with you, right? It should be meaningful, something that you want to explore. That's how it's going to be authentic. I'm not telling you to like produce crap really quickly that other people want and then like just be a factory or something, right? Like, pick something that resonates, that generates emotion, that generates awe or horror, or, you know, inspiration or hope or sadness or suspense or whatever it is, right? Like, that genuinely you're like, I want to think about that issue. And so, you know, going to do an example of this in that novella idea where I'll do this research. But step 5 is also important. You can't do this in Amazon reviews, but like ask for feedback. You can do that in Reddit or groups or, whatnot. Just, wherever people are having that conversation, you can say, hey, I would like to write something about this. How interesting is it to you? And you can join writer-specific groups in your genre or subgenre, and obviously those will be super friendly, but probably even just fan groups, I think in a certain way might almost be better, because people who write in a genre probably are also fans and probably in your audience, but like fan groups are definitely your audience, especially if they're talking about the types of books and that inspired you and they like them. Then they're probably your audience too. So just like ask for feedback, and it's great because you're not selling anything yet, right? That's awkward for you as a writer, but you might find that even then and there, I've talked in other videos, and this is probably its own how-to that I need to figure out is how to build a platform, right? You might even find that asking for feedback on your concepts leads to a couple people joining your platform so that you can build your platform as you write. And then when you release your book, you have some people eagerly awaiting it, which will give you a hit in the search, as well as just like the emotional support that you're writing for somebody throughout the process. And so do your audience research, right? I know it's no fun thinking about your writing as a business, but if you want to support yourself, you ought to think of from the beginning and throughout the process of how this book is going to be received by the people who are willing to pay for it or pay for similar books. And so this doesn't mean there aren't times where you focus more on the creativity, but like one afternoon of research will help you for the months and or years that you're writing, editing, and promoting this book. So that's really not a lot to ask. There's probably great ways as you're building a platform to continue your research and get beta readers, etc., to stay on task. One thing that was absolutely interesting, as I have been completely geeking out about Brandon Sanderson recently, in an interview, he talks about how he's rarely surprised at how his books are received because he goes out and finds people in his target audience and has them read the books, right? He's having them read chapters as he goes, etc. And so he actually has a pretty darn good idea of like how it's going to perform. Now that's easy because he's already built a big platform, but you can still do this because there's already writers groups in your genre or fan groups, etc., where you can go out and hear what people want and ask for feedback. So anyway, audience research should be definitely a couple hours at least that you spend one afternoon early on in your project if you're not already in the middle of it. It's something you can do intermittently throughout to tighten things up, or as you go editing, actually doing this a second time before you go editing with fresh, come back with fresh eyes, thinking about like, this is what people are looking for. That will help you trim down the parts that will be less interesting to people and really develop the parts that are. So audience research, do it at the beginning and, do it before you edit. Do it before each edit. I don't go along. And anyway, this is just like a simple outline. Very, very simple. You can do it in a few hours. Define your niche. Find your peeps online in Reddit, social media of your choice or Amazon reviews. Collect your do's and don'ts. Pick ones that resonate with you so that you can write authentically, be yourself, add to it, and then ask for feedback. Quick aside, my mission is to fix the internet for fantasy and sci-fi creators and fan bases. I think it's broken, all right? It should not be this hard to create a fan base and support yourself creatively. Like, yes, lots of people want to be authors. Not everyone's going to make it. Yes, a lot of authors are introverts. And still, I think there are ways the internet actually misuses authors. Most of these platforms for building your community really are platforms for consuming you and, advertising to your audience rather than helping you build a community. Like they're actually not optimized for that. And I would like to build an internet where it is easier for content creators, specifically sci-fi, fantasy, indie authors, and artists, to be able to build a platform and support themselves with their work. Well, what can you do about this? You can support this channel. Right now, this is just phase 1 of my evil plan to fix the internet. So like, subscribe, share these videos so that I can help people do better with the tools that we have now, and we can build a community that will support new technologies and new tools that I would love to build for you in the future as I get a little bit more self-supporting. If this content is not worthy of your like or subscribe or sharing, I humbly ask you, tell me down in the comments below what you want to see, what I could give you, how I can help you with the business of supporting yourself by your creative, nerdy works. And I will do my best to make that video.